Without a doubt, this is one of the most horrifying cases I've ever narrated here. Everything about it is gut-wrenching, from the crime itself to the relationship between the criminal and the victim, which makes this story even more devastating. Today's story revolves around Daizsa Bausby, an incident that took place in 2016 in Kansas City, Missouri, USA. Daizsa Bausby was born on September 23, 1997 in Kansas City, Missouri, USA. She was the daughter of Leta Walker Bausby and Jerry Bausby. Apart from Daizsa, they had 3 more daughters, one older than Daizsa and 2 younger. Daizsa's parents divorced in 2008 when she was 11, and afterward she resided with her mother and sisters. During her childhood, she and her family regularly attended the Linwood Seventh-day Adventist Temple. According to family and friends, Daizsa was creative, joyous, and kind-hearted girl who loved to have fun. Her sisters described her as highly amusing, attributing it to her unique sense of humor. In her freshman year, Daizsa met the criteria for a study program where she secured a scholarship aimed at low-income students to study arts. In 2016, Daizsa graduated from Southwest High School as the class salutatorian. She was eagerly looking forward to beginning her studies at Grambling University in Louisiana, choosing it over several other universities where she had also secured scholarships. Her teachers noted that she was an outstanding student, consistently achieving high grades while participating in extracurricular activities. Daizsa was cheerleading captain, played basketball, took part in athletics, and was a member of the Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps, commonly referred to as the JROTC. For those unfamiliar, the JROTC is a federal program organized by the U.S. Armed Forces in schools. Its aim is to instill in the students the values of citizenship, service to the United States, personal responsibility, and a sense of accomplishment. In addition to her packed schedule, she still found time for a part-time job at Foot Locker, a local sportswear store. Daizsa was driven and aimed to build a good life for herself. However, those who knew Daizsa couldn't fathom the dark realities she faced at home. It seemed as if she existed in an alternate world, using her humor as a coping mechanism. Jerry, her father, had a troubled background. Not only was he involved with illicit substances, but he was also a violent man. Thought Daizsa's parents were divorced, but Jerry still visited the family home from time to time. He would often disappear for weeks or months, primarily indulging in alcohol and drugs, but upon his return, he would lash out at his ex-wife and daughters. Due to this, the police were frequently summoned to their residence. Judicial records indicate that Jerry had an extensive criminal history. His run-ins with the law began in 1994, encompassing multiple convictions, some of which led to jail time. These included theft, drug possessions and sales, domestic assault, DUI, and driving with a suspended license. He even served a 120-day jail term for violating a restraining order. In 2005, he was arrested for domestic assault after attacking a family member who already had a restraining order against him. Then, in 2014, he was once again arrested, this time on charges related to drug trafficking. However, he was only incarcerated for a short period before being placed on probation. Upon his release, Jerry began to take stock of his life, realizing it wasn't going to the direction he desired. Consequently, he decided to seek help. He subsequently joined Narcotics Anonymous, finding a certain level of support there to steer clear of his addiction and subsequent troubles. For a while, it seemed that Jerry truly was on a path to betterment. He attended several Narcotic Anonymous meetings and even secured employment at a factory. But this upswing was fleeting. After just 2 months, Jerry was let go from his job, and in the subsequent years, he slipped back into his old patterns. He'd indulge in drugs, vanish for weeks, then return home to trouble his family. It was widely believed that it was only a matter of time before Jerry would land back behind bars, but no one could have predicted he'd morph into a monster, capable of committing a heinous act against his very own daughter. In 2016, 18-year-old Daizsa, determined to shield her future from the turbulence of her father's life, was poised to graduate high school with honors and eagerly anticipated starting college. Despite Jerry's problematic past, Daizsa still cared deeply for him. She sought to help him, but little did she know his grim fate awaiting her. On March 20th, 2016, a Sunday, Daizsa received a call from her father requesting to meet. Around 8:30 that evening, after her shift had ended, Jerry picked Daizsa up from her mother's home. Searches suggest she agreed to the meeting hoping to persuade her father back into rehab. However, the true nature of their meetup remains uncertain since, tragically, Daizsa would never get a chance to share her side of the story. The next day, on March 21st, a housekeeper at the 4 Acres Motel on Hickman Mills Drive began her usual cleaning routine. She was instructed to tidy up all the rooms vacated over the weekend. Expecting another regular workday, she was shocked upon entering room 253. A girl lay face down on a bed. At first glance, the cleaner assumed the girl might be sleeping or possibly hungover from a night out. However, upon closer inspection, the housekeeper realized the girl's body was cold and stiff. Motel staff quickly notified the authorities. Arriving officers confirmed the worst. The girl was already lifeless. The victim bore multiple scratches all over, including on her forehead, neck, lips, and nose. Her clothing seemed hastily put on as if by someone else. Several buttons from her blouse were missing, and her pants were undone. These missing buttons were later found scattered across the room. Despite the horror movie-like setting, the cause of her death remained uncertain. Later that Sunday, Leita, unaware of her daughter's whereabouts since the previous day, visited the police station to report Daizsa's disappearance. It was then that she learned that heart-wrenching news. Daizsa's body was sent for an autopsy, while police requested security footage from the 4 Acres motel. It wasn't long before evidence began to materialize. Footage from around 9:30 p.m. showed Jerry checking into the motel and renting a room for the night. Subsequent clips showed Jerry and Daizsa entering room 253. The recordings revealed no one else either entering or exiting the room. However, around 3:30 a.m., a man matching Jerry's description appears in the recordings wearing a black jacket and gray pants and seen leaving the location alone. He proceeds to walk to the parking lot and drives away in his parked vehicle. Sometime later, Jerry appeared once again, this time on security footage from a convenience store when he purchased cigarettes. The motel's cameras showed no one else entering the room after Jerry had left, making it clear that Daizsa and Jerry were the only individuals who had been in room 253. Police immediately launched a search for Jerry, the prime suspect in the case. 3 days later, they located him and brought him in for questioning. Remarkably, Jerry was still wearing the same clothes he'd been seen in on the security footage from both the motel and the convenience store. This strongly suggests that he likely still had the victim's DNA on his clothing and body, especially since he hadn't even take a shower in those 3 days. Officers collected DNA samples from Jerry's clothing and sent them for analysis. During the interrogation, Jerry told police that he had rented the room from Daizsa and her friends to party. He claimed to have stayed in the room for only about 20 to 30 minutes before leaving to help a friend who was having car troubles. He insisted that when he left, Daizsa was alone in the room and vehemently denied having done anything to her. After giving his statement, Jerry was released pending further investigation. Detectives reviewed the model's security footage multiple times, and what they saw was inconsistent with Jerry's account. Jerry had claimed he was in the room for only 20 to 30 minutes and left Daizsa waiting for her friends. However, as previously mentioned, no one other than 2 of them was seen entering or leaving that room. 4 days after the crime, Daizsa's mother, Lita Walker, filed for a restraining order against Jerry, citing his history of violence towards her and his status as the prime suspect in the case. She feared for her life. In addition to the restraining order, which was guaranteed a month later, Lita also applied for a full custody of her other 3 daughters to keep them away from Jerry. On May 5, 2016, Daizsa's autopsy report was released. It indicated signs of forced sexual activity, and the cause of the death was suffocation. The DNA test results linking Jerry to the crime were not complete until 6 months later, in September 2016. The test confirmed that Jerry's genetic material matched that found on Daizsa's body. Jerry was arrested the next day. According to the police team involved in the operation, he did not resist arrest. Following his arrest, Jerry was formally charged with taking Daizsa's life. He was sent to the Jackson County Detention Center, where he awaited trial. The trial of Jerry Bausby commenced in July of 2019. In court, the prosecution presented damning evidence, security footage from the hotel and the convenience store, along with the DNA findings. According to the medical examiner who performed Daizsa's autopsy, Jerry's DNA was found in her mouth and on her intimate body parts. Daizsa's DNA was also discovered on Jerry's intimate parts. Jerry's defense argued that there wasn't enough evidence to prove he had taken his daughter's life. They even suggested that what had transpired between Daizsa and her father before her life was taken was consensual, going so far as to claim they had been in a romantic relationship for some time. This assertion contradicted the testimony of family members and close friends of Daizsa, who insisted she would never engage in a relationship with her own father. Prosecutor John Peters Baker displayed photos on the victim's body, still on the motel bed, to the jury and almost yelled, "This is not consent." The prosecutor then asked everyone in the courtroom to observe a 30-second moment of silence, explaining that this is typically the amount of time it takes for someone to lose consciousness after they stop breathing, followed by an additional 3 to 5 minutes until they are pronounced dead. According to the prosecutor, that was the time Daizsa fought for her life. Numerous individuals, including Daizsa's sister, Daizsa Bausby, testified during Jerry's trial. Daizsa spoke in court about their difficult upbringing. They highlighted how Daizsa strived each day to be a better person and said she didn't deserve what Jerry had done to her. On July 15, 2019, after 4 days of deliberation, the sentence for Jerry Bausby was finally delivered. Jerry spoke for 45 minutes during the trial, referring to his daughter as a very special person. He repeatedly mentioned the abuse he suffered during his childhood, including beatings from his schizophrenic mother with electrical wires. He blamed societal prejudice, against his skin color for shaping him into the man he had become. Despite everything, Jerry declared himself innocent of the crime and showed no remorse throughout the trial. In the end, Jerry Bausby was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms for his crime against his daughter Daizsa. The judge also set a bail amount of $750,000. In 2016, the Four Acres motel, the crime scene, closed its doors for good. Shortly thereafter, a fire destroyed a part of the motel. A YouTuber documented the condition of the motel room where it all happened and showed the state of the motel after it closed. Southwest High School, where Daizsa had been a student, also closed at the end of 2016 after graduating around 70 students. Daizsa's funeral took place on April 1st, 2016, at the Linwood Seventh-day Adventist Temple, the same church she used to attend with her family. Her classmates dedicated their graduation ceremony to her, draping her would-be chair with her honor cord, academic hood, and a photograph. Her mother, Leita, received the diploma on her behalf. In an interview, Haley Steele, her cheerleading coach, said, "Daizsa was a rose that grew from the concrete." And that brings us to the end of today's video. Thank you very much for watching me to the end. Take care, and we'll see you next time.